Hello, my name is Denton Lim, and I am performing Rebecca Lang's Captured in Color and Other Brief Stories. Chapter 2. Second Chance. It took 20 minutes to clean out his cubicle. Now the contents of his life were lumped together in a cardboard box. A weekly planner with numbers running down the side. A stained coffee mug emblazoned with the words, "I believe." A framed photograph taken in Guatemala some 20 years ago. Rain drizzled on a collection of chewed-up pens. Michael shoved the box in the trunk of his AMC Pacer and hunkered into the driver's seat. Yesterday, he'd been Michael Jobson, telemarketer. Today, he was Michael Jobson, unemployed. And if he didn't find a way to pay off his debts, soon he'd be Michael Jobson, homeless. He rubbed his face with his hands. How had it come to this? Back in college, he'd believed rather arrogantly that he would change the world. And so he'd shifted his major from pre-law to community planning and spent 3 years in the Peace Corps. For one glorious moment, life was as bright and beautiful as the flowering orchids of the jungle. Then reality set in. A recession. Unmarketable skills, they said. The shelter he volunteered at shut down. Gambling addictions took over his life. 20 years of sacrifice, and what did he have to show for it? Nothing. A tap on the window. Michael rolled it down.
"Sir, this is an illegal parking spot,"
the policeman said.
"You'll have to move your vehicle."
Michael turned on the ignition, but nothing happened. He stepped into the rain and saw oil leaking from the rear of his car. "Great," he muttered. While the policeman radioed a tow truck, Michael kicked the tires. What else could go wrong? He turned to get back inside the car when he noticed the stranger. The man wore shiny shoes and a red tie and carried a black umbrella over his head. He smiled sympathetically at Michael.
"Having a rough day?"
"The worst," Michael replied.
"How about if I buy you a cup of coffee? There's a donut shop across the street."
Michael shrugged.
"Why not? What have I got to lose?"
Fluorescent lights flickered in the donut shop and the floor was sticky. Michael munched on a bear claw and moaned about his life, while the stranger listened and nodded. Every now and then, the stranger's eyes would shift to the shop owner, the only other soul in the sight. When the owner left for the back room, the stranger finally spoke.
"I hear a lot of hard luck stories, and it's always the same. People talk about their regrets, what they would have done differently. But give them a second chance, and they fall into the same old patterns."
The stranger sipped his coffee.
People find small nugget of happiness in their misery and cling to it like it's a life preserver. Don't I know it?
Michael said.
So why should they get a second chance? They're never going to change. That's not true. I've seen people turn their lives around. Maybe not on the first try, maybe not even on the second. But with help and support, change is possible.
He ran a hand through his hair.
If given the chance, I could change. Could you?
The stranger said.
Because I happen to deal in second chances. But only if you're committed. I'm committed.
Michael leaned forward.
You won't find anyone more dedicated than me. But what exactly are we talking about here? You have a job in mind? Better than a job.
The table rattled under Michael's hands. The fluorescent lights dropped to the ground in a shower of sparks. Michael tried to spring from his seat, but his legs glued to the chair and his arms pinned flat. His throat was clamped so tight that not even a scream could slip from it. In front of him, the stranger glowed, white light bursting from his skin.
I'm going to give you the last 25 years of your life back.
The stranger said.
You have the chance to correct every wrong decision you've ever made. Can you really change?
The stranger's black eyes bore into him.
We will see.
The roof ripped off, and Michael saw stars. The policeman rapped on the window of a black Lexus.
Sir, this is an illegal parking spot. You'll have to move your vehicle.
I'll only be a minute.
Michael stepped out of his car.
Write me a ticket if you have to.
He stood in the gray mist as droplets drizzled down his jacket. This was the place. The shabby building of the telecommunications office. The donut shop across the street. The drip, drop, and puddles echoed the pitter-patter of his heart. Part of Michael felt foolish, waiting for a man he was half convinced he'd made up. Another part of him, wiser perhaps, was frightened. If he had once been Michael Jobson, loser, then what would he have to pay for this new life? It couldn't very well be free, could it?
You look lost, Michael.
The stranger stood on the corner under his black umbrella. Michael's Adam's apple jumped into his throat.
You know who I am? Michael Jobson, corporate attorney, philanthropist. I attended one of your benefits last month. Your wife was quite charming.
The stranger stepped forward.
But that's not why you're here. You're here because of what happened in your past life.
Michael swallowed.
So it was real? Yes. And I must say, I'm proud of you. Sticking to your commitment, making something of yourself. You'd be surprised how many people end up exactly where they started from. So what's this new life going to cost me?
Michael asked.
No cost to you.
The man smiled.
I'm a philanthropist, like yourself. I believe everyone needs a second chance. But tell me, are you happy in your new life? Or would you rather have your old one back?
Michael looked at his shoes. He had a nice house, a wonderful family, and money enough to give to charity. Even if he had little time to volunteer, he should be happy. He was happy. And yet sometimes late at night, memories of his old life will bubble to the surface of his mind. Faces of people he'd once met, lives he'd once touched. In this life, he never knew them. Sometimes a little flutter in his chest ached for the old ways. But how could he go back to failure when he had worked so hard and gained so much?
No,
Michael said quietly.
I'm happy enough.
The policeman shook his head as he watched the Lexus roll away.
It always amazes me how cheaply these mortals sell their souls.
Indeed.
The stranger said.
It's all in the timing, like the stock market. Buy low, buy when people are desperate.
The stranger shook his head.
The great tragedy of mortals is that they never see what they might become. Michael Jobson, unemployed. Michael Jobson, Homeless man. Michael Jobson, advocate. Michael Jobson, world leader whose grassroots movement that would cut the United States poverty rate in half. That man no longer existed. He'd chosen out of that future before it could ever even begin.
The stranger turned to the policeman and smiled.
Let's see who else needs a chance to turn their life around.